Hey, good morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started here. We have a busy schedule. We'll do some basic introductions. We'll have the speakers. We'll have plenty of time for Q&A after, but I did want to acknowledge that with today being September 11th, at 8:46, we will do a moment of silence for that. So we definitely want to get started and get into our great session today. So my name is Chuck Ghost, co-founder here at Indy SM, and this is our 20th social media breakfast. We also have done some other events, but it's great to be back here in the Children's Museum. Jenny Holland, the marketing person formerly known as Jenny Messmer, has been a great friend of ours. She's on our board. She also works here at the Children's Museum. I think this is the third time that we've been in here, so it's a great venue. It's a great chance for some of you who maybe haven't been here in a while to check it out. Have Jenny come up and just talk a little bit about the museum.
Thank you all so much for being here. We love hosting these breakfasts and bringing in kind of a new audience to the museum because we feel like we're not just for children and that adults can come and have fun too. So we hope that everybody has a chance to come back and experience the museum when maybe you're not having to run off to work. So I did want to mention Terracotta Warriors is kind of our blockbuster exhibit right now. It is definitely for adults. It closes November 2nd. So this is your only chance to see the Terracotta Warriors in the U.S. this year, so hopefully you'll have a chance to come back and see that exhibit. It is an awesome exhibit. I have been through it only a couple times, but it is just really, really phenomenal, so hopefully you guys can all experience that. And I also wanted to mention, we are in the Lilly Theater. This is our family theater, and I wanted to give a shout out to the Lilly Theater staff and thank them for helping us this morning get everything set up in kind of a crazy morning. The power was out last night, so they have all been working very hard to make sure that this event could still happen. And they have, their next show is Seussified, A Christmas Carol is opening on November 28th, and they're all just really fun shows with actors, so hopefully you can come back for that. And then just a piece of business, if you want to get on the private Wi-Fi so that you don't have to keep accepting the terms and conditions, I can give you that password. It's Dinosphere 2013, but it's a capital D, the I is a 1, and the S is a $sign. So, not that that's complicated, I'm sorry. I couldn't change it to make it easier at the last minute. So, Dinosphere 2013, capital D, 1, N-O, $sign, P-H-E-R-E 2013. So, you can come ask me if you need that again. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. And two of the other sponsors that we have, one who's been with us for a long time is 12 Stars. The people here with the video cameras all around us, and they've been with us, I think, since the second event, helping record the events. Afterward, we post them up on YouTube, and then they're there for everybody to digest later. So we appreciate 12 Stars participating. Then we have a new company helping us out as well for the breakfast goodies that were out there this morning with Circle City Sweets. For those that aren't familiar, they're located in City Market. Cindy Hawkins and Roger Hawkins, they are married, a couple. They both own that along with Circle City Soups, based out of the City Market, but they also wholesale to places like Nordstrom, a bunch of other places where you probably maybe had some of their goods. And I think they also have some coupons out there for any catering that you're interested in. So they're a great company, great organization, pride themselves on locally sourced food, so they're a part of the Dig In community as well. Everything's made from scratch, no packaged, no processed anything. So definitely, if you like what you ate today, give them some love. Give them some love on Twitter. Go check them out at City Market, and definitely know they would definitely appreciate it. But the reason we're here today is to talk about social and recruiting. And some of the work that ExactTarget has been doing sort of bubbled up through a couple different connections. Jeremy Williams, who's on our board, and then Kyle Lacey, who a lot of you know through social and ExactTarget. Both talked to me about some of the work that Andre and his team have done. So Andre, Nicole, and Oaksoon are here today to share some of the insight, and not only how ExactTarget is using social to recruit and get the word out about their hiring, but also a little bit about what you can do as a professional to raise your profile and raise your personal brand to sort of be found and be seen by companies like ExactTarget and others. So Andre, Nicole, and Oaksoon, welcome to the stage.
right, so this is our first mic check, so seems to be working, so we're already out ahead. I just want to say thank you to all you guys for coming. I'm very excited to see a mix of people from recruiting, from marketing, from all different types of fields and all different industries here today. Want to give a shout out to Greg Picker, who flied all the way in from San Francisco. So thanks, Greg, for coming from Career Builder. That's our Career Builder rep. I'm excited to share a lot of things with you guys today. We could have done a 3-hour presentation, but we'll try and keep it within 30 minutes. A lot of good things to share today. And with that, I'll hand it off to Oksun.
So since we are at a social media breakfast, we want to encourage all of you to be social. So we are going to be giving out a free pass at the end of today to someone who has hashtagged ETJobs with some notes, comments about our breakfast and our talk today, to go to attend Connections, which will be happening September 23rd to the 25th. So that's access to everything, the breakout sessions, the keynote speakers, the concert as well. I think we're going to be listening to The Script and Will I Am. So be sure to hashtag ETJobs. And we also want to give a shout out to Indy Social Media and say thank you so much for inviting us today.
This is the one presentation it's totally okay to be on your phones the entire time. We will not be mad at you. So we'll be running the contest until 10 o'clock tonight, or 10 a.m. this morning. So an hour after we finish presenting today, I would love for you guys to share, hey, heard this great comment, or if you have any questions, to ask them to us. We'll be ready to respond to you guys in the next hour. We want to make this as informative as possible and really interact with you guys as much as possible. So we wanted to start with this quote from an actual email. You've been a pleasure to engage with since the first intro email. A lot's been talked about ExactTarget, how we've grown from a little software company in Indiana to a public company to the leader in digital marketing software as a service across 5 continents. There was no magical elixir. The one thing I will say, we're one of the only companies I've ever been a part of in 10 years of professional recruiting where culture is equally as important as skill set. So for us, the experience is very important. When we engage our candidates, whether we're going to end up hiring them down the road or not, we make sure their experience is the first touch of ExactTarget culture. So we'll go into more of that today and how we utilize social media for that. So again, I manage our strategic sourcing team. We are all part of the global recruiting team at ExactTarget. Strategic sourcing is a model that is very big on the West Coast. It is starting to grow a lot more in the Midwest. But essentially, it is a group that focuses on passive talent. We've grown quite a bit over the last 5 years, but in 2008, my boss MT Ray and our executive vice president Todd Richardson realized, out of Indiana, as we compete for top talent, as we're going against the Oracles, the Microsofts, how do we match them? How do we go peg for peg, being a smaller company with much less resources? So they actually flew out to the West Coast. They visited Facebook. They visited Zappos. They even visited Salesforce way back when, and saw this model of having a sourcing team, having a team dedicated to going after the passive candidates that are out there. And that's what our outbound team focuses on. And Oksun and Nicole and Ben, who's in the audience, are all part of the outbound team as well. So again, what is strategic sourcing? We think of us as highly strategic. We don't focus on roles that are considered anything less than mission critical. We pivot with the business. Everyone on our team is considered cross-functional. So Nicole can sit down and have a conversation with a VP of marketing and then have a call an hour later with a solutions consultant from Sydney, Australia. We cover all geos as needed by the business. There are no small wins. The slogan in our Eventbrite talked about our phrase to keep calm and slay the dragon. The nice thing is when any of us get a hire on the team, it's not an easy one. So it's always a big hire. We've got a great retention rate with our hires as well. Our average salary is $94,000. That's our average. We've had salaries for vice president level of up to $180,000 that have been sourcing hires. So when you think about you're hiring for your company, whether you're a small company, you're a startup, or you're a large corporation, think how important those pivotal hires are. Would you rather pay that money to an agency, or would you rather have a very highly technical team that's trained to go after those big hires for you? And this just shows a quick snapshot over the last 3 years what we've done as far as agency savings. We look at our big hires that we have from a sourcing standpoint and say, some agencies charge 20%, some charge 30%. We went very conservatively and said, we'll go on the low end. We'll say, take 20% of the person's base salary that we would have paid an agency to get this hire for this, this vice president or this senior director of core infrastructure or this enterprise sales rep. So we took that for every hire that we had to kind of show what our savings would have been. So in 2012, those savings were just over $600,000, so very good. It's $600,000 that was not spent on agency dollars. So the ROI on having a team was phenomenal. If you look at the first full year of having a larger team, those numbers went up to over 1.1 million. And then if you look at this year alone, we're almost close to 1 million in just 2 quarters alone. having a team with 3 outbound sourcers, so they've really improved quite a bit. So when you think about, would you rather spend $1 million to your agency or spend substantially less and get a higher quality of hire? We pride ourselves on our retention rate, the fact that 91% of our hires are still with the company during all the change with the acquisition and everything else. These guys stick around. They're great culture fits as well as great skill set fits as well. And when you think about the talent pool, the old days of post and pray are over in the recruiting world. When you put your job out there, you're only getting about 20% of the active talent pool applying. So if you wanted to fill a pivot, if you had one job to fill to change your company, would you want that to be the 20% or would you want that to be the full 100% that's out there? We are engaging people constantly that are passive, so all of you guys are happy at your jobs. When we talk to you, you're usually not looking, so it's a different conversation. It's not a hard sell. We're not going to try and force you out of your job at Google or somewhere else. We're instead going to start a dialogue and really tell you why we love ExactTarget and why it's special. And we start the dialogue. Some people we talk to, they say, you know what, after our conversation today, let's move forward in the process. Some will say, hey, I'm not interested right now. Some of our best hires have happened on the 13th or 14th in-mail before they finally come back and say, okay, Oksun, Nicole, Ben, Andre, we're ready to have a conversation. Let's go now. We've made some great hires out of that. So again, you guys have all heard how ExactTarget is hired, but we want to give a quick snapshot. This is our lovely hockey stick showing the sheer growth that we've had as a company. I could spend all day talking about all the efforts from our recruiting coordinators, our college recruiting team, our global recruiters, everything we've done as a collective unit to get to where we are today. But in the essence of time, I want to just focus on since 2008. So if you look back to 2008, which was only a few years ago, I didn't even have a Twitter account back then. We hired 75 positions, which is really good for only having 2 recruiters. So fantastic effort. Those guys did a ton of work to get there. If you flash forward just 4 years later, we hired over 750 positions with a larger team of 7 recruiters and 2 full-time sourcers. This was again going back to the investment that our team made in building out a sourcing unit, filling those tough hires. And a really quick story is I was actually a speaker on sourcing on a panel of 5 people a couple years ago, and there was a guy on the call that was much more seasoned than I was, very experienced, and he kept bragging about how they had 800 hires and how great their team was, and they did that with 40 recruiters and 10 sourcers. So after the 5th or 6th mention, I had to just get in there that we did the same thing with roughly 9 people. So just shows you that pound for pound, ExactTarget finds a way to be creative. We find a way to do things that other companies aren't doing. Because we didn't have the resources back then. We were a smaller company, so it's a great way to show that where there's a will, there's a way, and we're very big about encouraging outside of the box thinking. All of our ideas, it's okay to try and fail. All of us have tried a lot of things and failed, and no one's going to come back and say, that's a terrible idea. They're going to say, okay, Oksun, I really like that this part of it worked. Let's talk about how we retweak it and try it again. Or, hey, Nicole, that was an excellent try. Let's talk about the 2 things that worked from that, and let's tweak the 3rd thing that didn't work. I think having a company that has a culture of encouraging you to try and fail and then try again is just in our DNA, and that's what we love about working there. Now, if you flash forward to this year where we now have a full team, where we now have 6 sourcers and 20 recruiters, our inbound team's here today as well. We've got 3 inbound sourcers that focus on our referrals. We've now hired close to 500 people in just Q1 alone of this year. So you look at the numbers over just a very short time frame, and you can see what investing in the business and what that does and how it really just helps our growth. During this time, we have made acquisitions, we have gone public, we have been acquired. So we have had constant change throughout the entire time. The one constant has been our team loves working at ExactTarget, and we love the culture, which is constantly changing. So throughout all this, usually you would see a big drop in employees when a major event happens. Like, we thought when we went public, everybody that had stock had been there for a while, they were going to leave. Almost nobody left. When we got acquired, we thought, okay, it's a new road. Salesforce is a great company. What's going to happen now? Almost nobody left. And I think that speaks to the testament of our culture and how we're able to keep really good people not only engaged, but challenge them at each evolution of the company.
Yeah, thank you. And I personally just have to stand. I'm a little uncomfortable sitting, so bear with me. But so as Andre just showed you, an incredible slide of how we've grown significantly within just a few, short years. So scaling at that rate, how do you find candidates that quickly? So that's what we're going to speak to you about during this section is, going beyond the traditional methods of recruiting. How can you be creative? So in a recent study conducted by SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management, they polled organizations across all industries and found that 77% of those organizations that opted into the survey are using some form of social media for recruiting. But as you can see here, a majority of those companies are just using LinkedIn and not really going beyond that. So as more companies utilize LinkedIn, and granted, we use LinkedIn on a daily basis. It's a fantastic resource. It's not going to be the only resource, not going to be the only resource you can use to just consistently keep finding top talent. We found recently that as more organizations use LinkedIn for recruiting purposes, candidates are catching on to that. So maybe they're taking less detail, or they're taking detail away from their LinkedIn profiles, so it's a little more blank and you don't know if this is someone you want to reach out to or not. Candidates are also being clever and misspelling maybe perhaps names of tools that they've been using to get themselves out of searches that we're running. So how can you be creative using what's out there in social media to really find out more about these candidates that you may or may not want to contact through LinkedIn? So we found a fantastic tool called 360 Social, and it's actually an application you can download for free through Google Chrome, and it really assists you in finding out more about a potential candidate to help you, decide whether or not this is going to be someone who's going to be a great fit for your organization. So what this does is it really offers you a full view into an individual's social media presence. So it collects information from over 200 social network sites, some of which I'm sure you're aware of, and some of which I'm sure some of you didn't know existed. And it condenses that in a vertical toolbar on the site that you're visiting to give you that full picture of that individual social media presence. So not only does that help you kind of do your homework on that individual, but more importantly, it opens up that many more communication channels. So really quick, just wanted to show you how easy it is to download this tool. Like I said, the best part about this tool is that it is completely free. The only caveat is that you do have to be using the Google Chrome browser. So you simply download the tool, close the browser and reopen, and the tool should be ready to use. So just to test it, I would practice by going to some sort of social media site, such as a regular LinkedIn profile. And if successful, you should see that shadow icon pop up on the right side of the screen. So this is great, but I think you really don't realize how powerful this tool is until we kind of give you a real life example. So we've decided to use none other than our own Chuck Ghost here as a guinea pig. Appreciate you bearing with us during this. We won't put you in the hot seat too long. But just wanted to give you a quick glimpse into how this tool actually works. So you can see here we're just on Chuck's wonderful LinkedIn page, but you can see the shadow icon in the right-hand corner. Well, what you're going to do is you're simply just going to click that, and you have an instant snapshot of Chuck's social media presence. So from here, we can find out that much more about Chuck. So perhaps we look at a site that collects all of his tweets. We find out that he's occasionally a George Michael's fan. So perhaps in reaching out to Chuck about a prospective position with your company, or just for networking purposes, you want to catch his attention. So maybe you put, careless whisper in the subject line. I don't know. Foursquare is another site we were able to find out a little bit about maybe what restaurants he likes to eat at, or I would say more importantly in the world of recruiting, we see that he's been traveling a little bit. So maybe that's going to help you determine, the timing or the date of when you are going to reach out with a message for this prospective candidate. I think another great site that 360 pulls from is Meetup. I know as Indianapolis's tech community continues to grow, Verge is a great networking event for anyone in the industry, and we can see here that Chuck has been involved at one point or another with that organization. So that could also be a point you could reference in your communication to Chuck just to get the conversation started. So 360 Social, from a recruiting perspective, really helps us prepare and personalize our communication to candidates. And I feel that the results from taking a few extra minutes to prepare that communication have really gone a long way for us. As you can see here, the industry average for LinkedIn message response rate is around 20%, which isn't bad, but it could be better. Our sourcing team, just looking at the month of August, had a very high average of 41%, and we attribute all of that to taking a few extra minutes to customize and personalize that message. But of course, 360 Social is a great tool for other avenues outside of recruiting, and we know we're not just speaking to a crowd of recruiting professionals. There are individuals with different backgrounds here, so Oksun is going to take a minute and show some examples.
So this is an example of someone on our team had reached out to previously, I would say about a year ago. And I actually found his profile, could see why they had reached out to him. But unfortunately, a year ago, or a year before I messaged him myself, this person didn't respond. So I wanted to do a little bit more research, found his Twitter, saw that he had posted an article about the real life Captain Kirk. I don't know how many of you get the Star Trek reference, but I watched Star Trek growing up with my dad, and I was like, okay, this guy gets it, that's awesome. So I personalized my message a little bit catered to that and just saying, hey, I grew up with this, I know Captain Janeway, yes, big fan. So I kind of created that common base with this candidate, and not only did he respond, he actually said, let's meet up for lunch. So we've been continuing that communication since then.
And I just want to add a quick note to that. This is someone we tried to engage for a while, but I don't know if you guys can see if it's too blurry, but he responded within 15 minutes or 16 minutes. So not only did he respond, he was almost instantaneous. And Oksun actually re-engaged him recently about our free pass for developers at Connections, and he's now attending Connections as well. So it just shows the power of connecting on social media.
Absolutely.
So we just wanted to highlight recruiting specific examples of just appreciation of going beyond just a standard template email for trying to recruit a candidate into a position, but these candidates responded to our messages because they appreciated us going the extra mile and personalizing our message to them. But as I mentioned, we know the audience is full of others from outside of the recruiting industry, so Oksun is going to touch on how else you can use 360 Social.
So one of the things that I think that one of the reasons why we really try to personalize our messages is that we want candidates that we engage with, customers, clients, to know we went the extra mile, that they are worth that. So we wanted to give some ideas as to how you could do that depending on your industry and the people that you're meeting as well. All right, so even if you're starting from Pinterest, which a lot of people might not think of so much, of course it's known for maybe wedding dream boards and things like that, so I wanted to at least start with that. But whatever industry that you're in, you can definitely find people or find different interests and be able to find what sort of things that people are talking about. So this one was the specific weddings Indianapolis search. So whether you're in that industry, maybe from the catering perspective, perhaps you're also a photographer, anything like that, you can find people who are interested in that, posting about that, to be able to see that. Perhaps someone's looking for a new home, and maybe you're in the realty industry, and you're reaching out to different people who might be looking to buy a new home. So I thought this was really interesting, and just the possible ideas. If you find someone that you're going to be showing a house to, or you're trying to engage, I know that a realtor has been emailing my husband every 6 months, hey, are you interested in this? But if he found my Pinterest board, maybe he'd also find what kind of houses that we'd be interested in looking at. So there's definitely options there. Maybe you're in the chimney business. Maybe you have a house that has great chimneys and you want to reach out to someone who might be interested in that. Or even gardening. Maybe a landscaper, maybe someone who is just very interested in that artistic aspect. So we wanted to give a few options, whether you're in the recruiting industry or not. And even if you just find someone that you are going to engage with, this is a great spot to just be able to see what their interests are. And if all else fails and you don't find anything relevant, you can also reach out to them through Twitter, all these other avenues that might be found through 360 Social. So there's just a lot of ways that you can personalize your interaction and your engagement with the people that you're meeting, whether in recruiting or not. And one of the other aspects that I want to mention about social media and how it's so relevant is, I think, a huge aspect or area that people are utilizing social media in is customer service. I thought that this infographic was very relevant, saying that 80% of companies think that they are offering superior customer service, whereas only 8% of the customers on the other end think that they are receiving that superior customer service. And a huge part of why that is the case is because of smartphones. We have the ability to be able to communicate, to post things instantaneously. But that also sets the expectation that we want a response instantaneously as well, and that's not always happening. And one of the ways, that we've been really trying to stay on top of this as well, I want to give a shout out to Kristen and Dawn. Thank you so much from our marketing department. They've been helping us a lot to be able to respond to different people. I know that through our listening tool, Radian 6, if they hear something that might be a more recruiting geared question, they will send that our way so that we can respond appropriately as well. So thank you guys for helping with our social media initiatives. Awesome. Also, we know that customer brand and company brand, personal brand, all of that is super important, but sometimes it's hard to be able to explain that through writing. And you hear a picture is worth 1,000 words, but also how are you able to capture your company's brand to be able to share with a lot of different people? And Nicole's going to share a little bit more about how we have been utilizing an app called InstaJob to be able to do that.
So this is another fantastic application that we've found to be extremely useful, especially in the world of recruiting, but is not limited to that. So InstaJob is readily available for download if you guys feel like doing that right now, but it's very neat. So what it does is it takes a customized picture or photo that you've taken and it pairs it directly with a link to your careers page. And I think the best part or the best feature of this tool is that, like I said, it's not limited to anyone. So this is a tool essentially that empowers your entire company to share the brand, to share the reason that you like working for the company that you do. So personally, and I think I might speak for the others sitting up here as well, ExactTarget's culture is a huge selling point. It's why I wanted to come on board with the company, amongst other reasons. And so this is something that we are able to utilize on a daily basis to really showcase why we love coming to work every day. So like I said, you can take pictures of everything and display that to prospective candidates, whether it's a picture of your office or a team outing or just a neat sign in your building that you want to share. So you take that photo and by placing the direct career link in conjunction with that picture, you're able to not only drive traffic to your career site, but your company's specific social media sites as well. But we'll get to that here in a minute. So once you've taken the picture and either added your own career title or position title for what you're looking for, or selected a pre-existing title from a drop-down menu, you're able to choose various fonts and formats that you'd like that picture to be within. So you can get as creative as you'd like. And then the final step before publishing that is actually choosing which social media outlet you want to push that picture out into. So I know personally I use Twitter quite a bit, as well as LinkedIn, but for those of you with Instagrams or Pinterest boards, you're able to push kind of your customized photo out through various channels. So we of course wanted to share a few fun examples. On the left you'll see a nice little picture of the ExactTarget Marketing Cloud bikes that we sponsored when Indianapolis launched the bike share program. Going a step further, we felt it was important to share this through an InstaJob because our company provided everyone with free memberships. So how neat is that? We got a little creative with this title and said that we were hiring go-getters, and that's about as creative as I can get. But we thought it was an amazing event, an amazing thing that was happening not only for Indianapolis, but directly relevant to our company culture. On the right, you can see us taking a little break from work, not more than 5 minutes, but it's a cornhole board or a cornhole set that we actually have in our office, which hopefully after this is done we can go back and play a little. But you can see Andre and another manager from our recruiting team just taking a little break and engaging in a little friendly competition. But I think the most interesting InstaJob thus far this year was actually from the World Cup. We have a nice TV in our office, and in addition to working, we were able to watch every game during the World Cup this year. And so Andre is going to touch on that in a minute, how we also use InstaJob to not only show our culture and our brand, but start some talk and communication about ExactTarget utilizing global events.
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, Nicole makes a great point of that. I know a lot of what Oakson and Nicole and I have talked about today is how to get things out for your job, locally, how to look for jobs that are being hired currently, We've done some things with events before, but we really thought with the World Cup, what's the next level? How do we amplify our brand on a global scale? How do we take things outside of Indianapolis and other areas that we're in, take our name out there and really, where we've got a good brand, but maybe we're not as strong in London as we are in Indy or in Sydney or in Germany. So we decided, to look around at the world. Everyone's truly connected now. I mean, if you look with the power of everybody being on a tablet or a phone, especially through Twitter or other areas of social media, Facebook, you can be in a debate during a soccer match with somebody that's in a pub in London. You can go back and forth. Actually, during the World Cup, we did that with several of our London counterparts. We had a chance where some of our executives from our London office were actually at some of the games in Brazil, and during the games, they were in the stadium, we were going back and forth with them as well, and that was amplified by certain hashtags for other people to retweet and share with the world. So when the World Cup came around, we knew it was going to be big, and just before we get into that really quick, we utilize all sorts of fun things. You've heard us talk a lot about connections. You can see the hashtag for that up there. We've described it as Shark Week for digital marketers. We also had Shark Week on for a week in the office as well, so the TV gets a lot of use. The US Open was on, but it's nice, if we're watching the US Open and say a 16 seed is about to beat a 1 seed and it's a huge deal and it's blowing up on social media, we're seeing that and we're saying, hey, we want to hire aces, and we send out a very fun job share, and then it gets retweeted and picked up by people that are following the US Open. So it's a great way for us to stay real time in with everything that's going on. So when it came to the World Cup, we knew it was going to be huge. We knew as far as stats that the previous World Cup, Twitter was 4 years ago, Twitter was still coming along. It was on a smaller scale. You look to see roughly 3,000 tweets per second. We decided we wanted to do something with ExactTarget. Now that we are a global company on 5 continents, we wanted to really embrace that. And it happened to turn out that several of the countries that had teams in the World Cup, we had offices or were hiring for ExactTarget, so it worked out great. We just did not know how big it was going to be. So this year's World Cup was the highest social media sporting event of all time. You look during just one game, just the semifinal alone, there were 35.6 million tweets. So literally it was a chance to be engaged. So whether you work for a business here in Indianapolis or you have a regional presence or local presence, if you want to amplify, tying it into worldwide events such as this are a great way to get your name out there and really get things out there. So we knew going into this, we'd done things with social media before with events, we wanted to have a targeted plan. So we decided, we're going to share things via Twitter and LinkedIn as our main avenues. We're going to make sure we focus on countries where we have World Cup countries that we're playing where we had jobs. We want to do the hashtag World Cup. So we were only sharing jobs via LinkedIn and Twitter that were in, say, Germany or Sydney or United States or Brazil. So we started to target tweets around certain events. We did fun things, which we'll show here in a second. So we wanted to maximize when there's 25 million people tweeting during a game. That's when we want to, at maximum capacity, then we want to share a job in one of those countries and get it out there. The results blew us away. So this is a short example of just one person's success from the week before the World Cup to the first week of the World Cup. So you can see a huge increase, 400% increase in several categories just by adding the hashtag World Cup. And as the World Cup went on for the next month, we got more and more creative. These guys had great ideas. We did a video, all sorts of different things, and we saw those numbers increase tremendously. And that's when we really realized the power of social media in your brand. I only have 600 followers. I think collectively we might have 1,000 followers among us, but if Oak soon sends out a great tweet to London and somebody in London tweets it out to 20,000 people or 25,000 or 50,000 people, and that happened quite a bit, it's a great way where people can amplify your brand and just keep sharing jobs. So as you can see, we dressed up, half the team was dressed up for Australia, half the team was dressed up for the Netherlands as one example. We took a battle picture, and we tweeted that out right after a goal, so when people were just tweeting left and right in that game, and it was a great way for people to see that, retweet it and share it, and then to advertise that we're hiring in that country. We were also able to, again, capitalize on the World Cup there, sharing all the jobs we have related to blogs and things that we had as well. And we had a lot of fun with it. The results were better than we would have ever expected. We saw a huge increase in followers, but also we drove a lot of traffic to our jobs, and people learned about it, the ExactTarget culture. The fact that they see that we've got a fun culture, the culture we have in Indianapolis is being shared in London, Sydney, Germany, everywhere. We were actually featured in a blog by Career Cloud, which is kind of the leader in social recruiting. They wrote a nice article about us utilizing InstaJob to tie the tweets that we were sending out to real-time events as kind of ExactTarget as the model and kind of leading the way with all companies in the software as a service industry across the board. So it was a nice compliment from that. So again, we want to share some more. We wanted to be remiss to be in Indiana and not talk basketball with you guys for a little bit. So Nicole's going to share more about that.
So obviously Andre showed you great examples of how we really capitalized on a world event, but we certainly don't want to miss local opportunities. So you know, with the Big Ten Championship and March Madness being sponsored here in Indianapolis for a brief period of time, we certainly wanted to jump on board and do a similar thing as Andre mentioned with the World Cup campaign with these local events. So, you know, just little things that go really a long way. One of these, and I believe it was this one, drove quite a bit of conversation actually, but I think I hashtagged perks when ExactTarget had some extra tickets to the Big Ten Championship, and being a huge basketball fan, I wanted to jump on board and go. But just being able to highlight some of the amazing opportunities that, you know, as ExactTarget employees, we've been able to kind of take advantage of. And as you can see here, using InstaJob app to take a quick team photo on the circle when the Big Ten logo was set up, and being creative and saying that we're looking for the next big hire. And then here is just another picture of our team with our signature ExactTini drink after a hard day working the Big Ten Career Fair. So again, just highlighting the fun and our culture, because that is really what drives a lot of people to ExactTarget.
And here's another InstaJob picture of us having fun in the office. It's a mouse pad instead of a basketball, but you can definitely see we have a lot of fun for sure. So one thing is definitely posting things out and getting the news out there and having people see them. But ExactTarget is all about having a call to action and how to be able to engage people instead of just kind of throwing information at them. So this was another event that we attended. It was the BDPA was a diversity technology conference that we attended, and so it was one of those kind of innovative ideas that we wanted to try, and I think, you know, we learned a lot from it. We might be able to tweak some things, but it was a great start to be able to have that call to action to be able to continue engaging with candidates. So this is kind of how we started out. We had posted out through Twitter saying, we're going to be at the BDPA conference, stop by our booth to get fortune cookies, and these fortune cookies had little quotes about what it meant to be orange. And so we were promoting this, calling it fortune cookie selfies. And what we wanted people to do was to hashtag ETJobs, and that, you know, a few of the people would be able to win some sort of like present or gift or something like that after stopping by our booth. So this is someone that stopped by our booth. We told him about it, and he gave us a great tweet saying, shout out to my orange people. And we were grateful. So he was definitely one of the people that ended up winning. And we sent a message just letting him and someone else know, hey, you guys won you know, a free gift and everything. So we're continuing this conversation, continuing this engagement with them, and we were able to send him a package of different goodies, some orange mugs and things like that. But he was, you know, really grateful that he had the opportunity to engage with us. And it wasn't just another booth that he stopped by, it was that continued conversation, continued engagement, and there was a benefit for him stopping by as well. So that was kind of an awesome initiative that we tried to be able to just go along with what ExactTarget is all about. So this, we wanted to include this slide because we know that, you know, not everyone's going to start out being super social media savvy, and so we wanted to let everyone know, hey, every journey begins with a single tweet, and these are each of our first tweets that we sent out. Mine was not even one that I made up, it was a retweet. And if you notice, none of us have hashtags at all either, so it's definitely kind of fun to just, you know, it keeps us humble about where we started as well.
Yeah, if you notice, MT Ray, my boss, is sitting in the audience today. Wave MT, hello everybody. She brought me in like my first week and was like, you don't have a Twitter account, what's going on? We're ExactTarget, you've got to get on this. And I was like, I went home and told my soon-to-be fiance, now wife, I was like, I have to make Twitter. I'm like, what do you know about this? And she's like, I'm old, I don't know. And so literally a couple years ago, I had 0 followers, 0 accounts. So if I can figure it out, anybody can. So, I mean, you look at the first tweet I had was volunteering at an event with ExactTarget during the ISO, and, you know, not a single hashtag to be found. I was just such a rookie back then. So.
And I was actually, as you can tell, all of my friends were trying to convince me that Twitter was the next big thing, and I just didn't understand kind of constantly telling people what I was doing. It just seemed a little bizarre. I'm a little slow to catch on to social media. I still don't have an Instagram. So, but that just kind of goes to show you that everything that we've kind of created and established in terms of campaigns or whatnot, you know, everyone has to start somewhere, and we just wanted to show you that this is where we started.
All right, well, I wanted to say thank you to you guys for obviously coming today. Hopefully you guys have learned a lot of things. We're really excited to hear what questions you guys have and see what tweets you guys have shot out for all of us. And I'd be remiss not to talk about Connections, our Shark Week. It's coming up in 2 weeks. Hopefully a lot of you guys have enjoyed Connections before. If you haven't, it is the go-to digital marketing conference on the planet. There's nothing like it. It's our absolute, we spend the entire year getting ready for Connections at ExactTarget. Indianapolis turns the entire city orange and blue. It's a great opportunity. As you can see, the hashtag CNX14 on there. And I'm very happy to share with you guys that a special offer for all of you guys that are here today as a thank you for being part of our presentation. You are all going to get free passes to the keynotes at Expo Hall for Connections. So very cool. So, I got it. So when you register, you're going to put in the Keynote Expo right here, and we can, we'll make sure we send this out to any of you guys that, if you want to write it down, just KEYNTXPO. Very simple. You're going to go to ExactTarget/Connections/registration, register for Connections, put that in, and you guys are going to get able to see our Expo Hall of all the wonderful things that we have. You're also going to be able to enjoy the keynotes. I'm sure you guys are wondering, what does that mean? Is it worth me coming downtown? I work on the north side. I do this, etc. I think it's worth it. If you want to, listen to will.i.am, if you want to talk, if you want to listen to the Chief Communications Officer from Twitter, famous author John Green, our CEO and visionary Mark Benioff, who invented cloud computing. There's a lot of options for you guys to come, and you guys are able to take part in every single keynote with this pass. And what's really cool is you can see our final keynote, Mindy Kaling. So huge draw for us, a great speaker. We're very excited to have her. But we're very happy to offer all of this to you, and we really appreciate you guys being active participants today and taking part in it. So we've got one last slide.
So of course we need to have a cloud. Any questions we're unable to get to today, please feel free to reach out individually. These are all of our Twitter handles right here, but probably the best source is just tweeting at ExactTargetJobs and hashtag ETJobs as well, and we'd be more than happy to address anything there. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Here, Andre, you can take this.
Well, thank you guys. That was a wonderful presentation. And as Jeremy just pointed out, to everybody who's here, we'll also send an email with all that information. So you've got the code and the link and all that available in email. So I actually have a first question. Actually, first statement. A, I'm not looking for a job. In case my coworkers are watching, I'm not looking for another job. But second, so I'm a LinkedIn family. Like, I love it. But not everybody does. So what, from your, as a recruiter standpoint, what do you guys see? What do you look for? What do you look at on somebody's profile that might really stand out to say, this is somebody we want to talk to, this is somebody we want to build a relationship?
That's a great question. I was able to speak at a conference last year in San Francisco. On the flight back, I sat next to an executive that's talked about what does it mean for recruiting? How do you? And I said, well, culture is very important to us. And he said, how do you recruit for culture? What doesn't make any sense? It's intangible. And I talked about, one of the coolest things about ExactTarget is everybody that we hire comes to orientation through Indianapolis, and basically their last bit of initiation is they've got to learn our platform and send out a bio email of their life story with visual links and pictures of the entire company. But you see a similar pattern, whether it's a software developer or an enterprise sales professional, they've started their own company, they love international travel, they've taken a chance, they've done some sort of adventure. So really for us, we look at the profile to say, okay, that's great. Oksun, when I was interviewing to expand our sourcing team, was coming right out of college, but had a lot of experience working and volunteering, had traveled the country, done a lot of different things, was working for the careers office, but had so many creative things that she had done that I was like, let's definitely have an interview. And obviously, once these guys interviewed, they did a phenomenal job. But it's a resume. We look for just go-getters. I mean, we talk about it. We say we're hiring for go-getters, but we can see little things. We can see that Nicole, was recruited off campus in Ohio State, had never lived in Indiana, moved all the way here for her first job in recruiting, took that chance and put herself out there. So we look for that DNA in those individuals that aren't afraid to take chances, aren't afraid to kind of push the envelope. That's my long-winded answer.
Well, so it's really the value of blending that personal and professional, as long as the personal is professional.
Correct.
And I think touching on Andre's response, I mean, specific to LinkedIn, it's not just looking at someone's profile. I think what people don't realize is, you know, all of the groups that you participate in. I mean, if you're starting discussions and it's very clear that you are passionate about digital marketing and you, like I said, are starting those discussions, creating those conversations, I mean, that's very appealing. I mean, you can truly tell that someone is passionate about the industry and what they do and want to provide value to anyone who will listen. So that's also something.
And we honestly, I mean, an example, these guys all came in at the same time. So we hired 3 outbound sourcers, all came in, different backgrounds, all at the same time. And there was one case early on, a month in, still learning the job and everything, and said, Andre, here's a candidate. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence for them as a salesperson. I said, well, you look at their social media. Let's look at their Facebook. Okay, looked at their Facebook, found out, they actually delivered a class where it was a professor on digital marketing. So all things that weren't on their LinkedIn profile, but on their Facebook, found out, guess what? Chuck's a really good salesperson, but we want digital marketing people. Well, guess what? Now we know that Chuck actually speaks on digital marketing and is a professor and teaches it at a local college in California. We reached out, engaged that individual, and he's been with us for the last year or so.
Great. Well, so we do want, like I said, to observe the moment of silence here in a few minutes, but why don't we go ahead and open it up to a couple questions. Anybody in the audience, and then please, if one of you wouldn't mind repeating it, so we've got it on video. So anybody? Go for it. Nice and loud.
Yeah, so you actually just mentioned Facebook, and aligns with the question I have. The slide you showed earlier showed 70-some-odd% are using social, 50-some-odd% other, and kind of indicated LinkedIn was the leading platform, and then it had Facebook as the second most adopted. So can you talk a little bit about maybe what ExactTarget is doing with Facebook, or what kind of maybe outreach or how you're utilizing that in your process?
Okay, so the question was how we're utilizing Facebook from a recruiting standpoint. One of you guys want to take it?
I can start, just because so going back to that slide, I did want to clearly just point out the first statistic, so that 77% of organizations utilizing social media in some capacity for recruiting purposes. Of those individuals that are using social media for recruiting, 57% of those companies were really focused on social media just to get that conversation started about employment. So I think that's probably the first place where we would like to start is, I would say Facebook, probably for us, is really just about creating a spot that maybe outside channels we can drive people to find out more information about ExactTarget, so that they can learn about our culture and about employment opportunities with our careers page that we have within Facebook.
And also, it's a great way to show our culture. Not only do we have the ExactTarget Facebook page, but we have like the Exact Fund. We have philanthropy pages, so you can see all the different, so you can see just the careers, you can see just the company as a whole, the software, everything else. But you can also say, wow, they do a lot with philanthropy. That's one of the biggest arms of them. I'm huge into philanthropy. That's a big selling point for me. So it's a great way to kind of give more of a fun social perspective of your company. And when they go to those, they say, okay, I want to go work for Republic Airlines, or I want to go work for, ABC company. So it's a great way to have that.
And to your question, I think, that's a great point that you brought up, just because social recruiting and utilizing all these different channels is actually very experimental. And it was interesting because I actually had I haven't utilized Facebook to reach out to people so much myself, but I've used it more to just learn a little bit more about that person, their interests and things like that, to personalize my messages, whether it be through LinkedIn or an email or Twitter or something like that. But I have had people reach out to me through Facebook, and I was like, well, this is interesting, and I kind of had the same question as you, like, how are they going to do this? Sadly, I responded, and we had some back and forth about setting up some time to call, and I was like, wow, this is really going to work, but that didn't end up happening. He somehow stopped. I don't know if he didn't like my profile. I don't know, but yeah, it's very experimental, and I think, it was because I am in this industry, because I am engaging people socially, I wasn't turned off by it, so it just really depends on people and how they want to do that.
Okay, so we'll take a brief break from the Q&A, and for Patriot Day and a moment of silence, Tom Spalding's over here on the left. He actually traveled to New York after 9/11 when he was at the Indy Star. And last year about this time, we did a session with first responders in social media. So this is pretty near and dear to us. So Patriot Day, let's just have a brief moment of silence and remember September 11th. Okay, thank you. Okay. So you guys obviously with LinkedIn, but then with Twitter, I don't want to say necessarily highlight the horror stories, but what are some common mistakes that you guys see people making that are very easily fixed or easily solved?
Oversharing.
Okay.
You know, when I was, my previous job, I spent 7 years with a third-party agency, and we actually had someone that was, we had a candidate that worked very well for us as a senior accountant. Her sister graduated college, great internships, everything else. We got her a job with a leading company in Indianapolis. Her first day, she tweeted, "My boss is an absolute blank." Well, the company had a social media person in marketing that was always checking like filters for their company and saw that, and we had to walk her out the next day. So here she was, great internship, great everything, made one bad mistake of throwing her boss out there at her new company, and that was all it took. So it's just, I mean, I'd say be careful what's out there, because it's out there for everybody.
And I think if you are utilizing LinkedIn more so for professional networking, which obviously is its purpose, you know, under the interests section, it's fantastic that that's there, and it's wonderful when candidates openly offer some of that information. But you know, kind of going with Andre, you don't want to overshare there as well. I think put things that could be linked to a professional purpose. So if you really enjoy volunteering, I think it's great to put which organizations you're volunteering with versus maybe some of your personal hobbies. I've seen silly things such as partying with my friends or going to raves and little things like that. So I definitely think you want to focus on pursuing more personal or professional interests versus personal interests within LinkedIn.
And I think also just, you know, I'm an English major, editing to make sure you don't have any spelling errors, especially if you're highlighting, you know, if you're talking about being detail-oriented, please, you know, don't have any spelling errors, especially on your LinkedIn page. If I'm looking for someone who is the last person to look at an email or a landing page before it's sent out, I really want you to be able to be detail-oriented enough to know your own spelling errors.
And a quick addendum to that as well too. Teresa Kachu runs our college recruiting program and does a phenomenal job. Couldn't be here today, but we've done a very good job building our Catapult and Slingshot program here at Indianapolis and expanded it nationally to having people from Seattle, everywhere else. In the last 4 years, so much interaction now is had with universities telling LinkedIn is now taught as a freshman. Now as a freshman, you start to build your professional, whereas a few years ago it was considered only professionals, whereas now that's being taught in colleges from their freshman year. Because you're trying to get that good internship, you're trying to get the head above everybody else. So it's nice to see social media is being ingrained from a responsibility standpoint at a very young age. I know I wasn't even thinking about that back when I was in college because there was no Facebook or there wasn't anything else. So,
any other questions? Jenny?
Overlap is there between the ExactTarget account and the ExactTarget job? How do you balance that? Like if they're doing something
Good question, and I might not be able to do this justice, but I'll do my best, Don. Don handles our ExactTarget account specifically, and we have been working with the marketing department, actually Nicole, myself, and actually Candace too in our audience, and we have also a recruiter in London who helps us support it as well. And one of the things that we wanted to do, I think the challenging part about our ExactTarget jobs account has been that, you know, managing that account is none of our first jobs. It's not our full-time jobs. So we've been definitely trying to figure out a strategy, and that's what they've really been helpful with us about. But one thing that we've really tried to do with that account more specifically is to gear it towards our audience who might be interested in the job section, whether that be recruiters. So we have kind of recruiting humor on Fridays, but it's more about career development. And we actually built out a schedule so that we know what we're putting out as well. For example, Monday is about digital marketing in general, if you are interested in that field. Tuesday is about ExactTarget products and what's going on at ExactTarget. Wednesday is all about our culture. Thursday is just general career development, whether it be interview tips, resume tips, and then Friday we just try to keep it fun. And then college recruiting also uses that as well. So that's kind of how it differs. And you know, honestly, with just being innovative, experimenting with a lot of different ways, that could change in a year, but that's what we've been utilizing it mostly. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there certainly is a little bit of overlap here and there if they share an article and we think it's fantastic, but I definitely think looking at the individuals who are following the ExactTarget Marketing Cloud handle versus ExactTarget Jobs, it is a different audience, so sometimes we do want to push out the same content, but it's also nice to be able to separate, because people following the ExactTarget Marketing Cloud, they don't want to know about what jobs we have open on a daily or weekly basis, and that's where, you know, we find it more appropriate to push that out through our.
And Dawn's been super helpful. She even sends me the HR-related articles. She's like, hey, this would be great for that. So I'm like, thanks so much. So we definitely work well together.
Way in the back.
We've all made mistakes in posting in social media here and there. Is there something that someone can do for damage control? Say as a freshman, they may have a totally different perspective than a senior. What can be done to help overcome or neutralize whatever negative might be out there?
It's a great question. I would start by saying, you know, the good news is the odds of somebody going all the way back to, you know, 4 years through someone's tweets are going to be pretty minimal, so they're safe in that capacity. But, you know, the great thing is with social media, you have the option to delete. So if you see something, you're able to delete it. But I would always advise, if you type something, read it, and it's important, read it, have somebody next to you read it, make sure they double check it before you hit send. Or just the old rule that, you know, with email, hey, if you get a terrible email and you're upset, you're going to respond back to a coworker or somebody else, take 30 seconds, walk over your desk, come back, read the email again. Does it still make sense? Just take a breath. So just encouraging more responsibility, and then if it does go out, you can always instantly hit the delete button or whatnot.
And I myself, I don't know if anyone remembers Zanga at all. I had, thank you, okay. A few people know what I'm talking about. Had one of those in high school, and it was just, I didn't know what blogging was, and it was just me and my friends. We had lots of fun. But it wasn't anything inappropriate. It's just high school fun and, you know, just hanging out pictures and whatever. So that was something that I definitely contacted Zanga about, and I was like, can I have this deleted, please? So when you searched me, you had, he saw a lot of awards that I won in college. Thank you.
And especially around the time that perhaps individuals are looking for maybe a first job or an internship, we've definitely seen, we have individuals on our team who they have 2 Twitters. So they've created a professional Twitter where, you know, that is public, so an employer is able to find that. And if they, you know, if an employer sees this professional Twitter and sees that this individual is interested in their company and the industry, that is very appealing, and I think that's going to be a higher focus versus, you know, say we find their personal Twitter, but it's also private. I mean, there's no overlap there, so that's also something.
Well, that kind of brings up a good question then. Is it better to, say, for example, on Twitter from a recruiting standpoint, if you're worried about content you're sharing, is it better to keep your account private and then accept followers so that recruiter can see it? Or do you think as a recruiter it's better to see somebody who's sort of willing to share and be open?
I think it's only one of the avenues. I think, you know, these guys have talked about, we look at several avenues to find candidates. If it's very important to them that they party like rock stars on the weekend and they want to share that with just their friends on Twitter and they have a private account, more power to them. You know, if we see your LinkedIn profile and we really like that and we can't access your Twitter, we're not going to think like, what secrets are you having? We're just going to say, okay, we'll look at your Facebook, or we're going to find Meetup. We're going to find a different channel. The nice thing with our team is if there's a roadblock, they just move around it. So.
Yes, I'm Libby Davis from University of Indianapolis, the Professional Edge Center, and I want to say that we are most definitely having students create a LinkedIn profile. So I'll hang around a little bit if there's anybody who would like to come and do a presentation for us, because we almost represent parents, and so of course they're going to hear it from us. But if we can get someone from industry to come and talk to our students and say how very important this is, and all the messaging we've talked about read, reread, take a breath. Make sure you use correct grammar. LinkedIn is the professional way as opposed to Facebook. So I'll hang around a little bit. I'm in a right to voice jacket.
We've got a great college program, so we can have a talk to.
So when you guys are talking about using big events like the World Cup and the Big Ten Championship to post on Twitter, I think there's a really fine line that you're walking between spam and, when it's done really well, engaging people. How do you guys walk that line? And have you found anything that any best practices that keep you away from seeming like you're just jumping on and spamming hashtags?
Sure. I think it's being creative. I mean, the things that we had, you know, we were sharing a lot of individual content. We have an auto-publisher through a system called Jobvite where we can broadcast jobs. Just making sure we're not, you know, spamming where we're sending out too many of those or whatnot. So, you know, learning from that. And then, you know, we did it for a week. We had no idea what we were going to do. We did it for a week, but then we all came back and talked as an entire group and said, okay, Ben, what was your experience? Carrie, what was your experience? Oaksun, what was your experience? Nicole, what was your experience? What worked, what didn't work? Let's recalibrate for the next 3 weeks. And we really found that like by doing more targeted things, it really hit a better audience. I mean, Ben was working on his house and was like spackling a wall or something, and it looked like Argentina or something. So he tweeted out during the game, and then it got retweeted and favorited. So it's just, you find ways to be random, speak to your own personality. Ben's going to send things that I'm never going to send. Oaksun will be things that are different from Nicole. We all have our own voice, but just finding ways to be creative, be you. And we found that original content is the best way to get retweeted and get responded to. Although it was fun to, we mentioned Wayne Rooney in a lot of our tweets about our London jobs, and people, he's a lightning rod. I think he had like 15 million followers. So people in London were retweeting those jobs. So there are 10,000, 20,000 followers left and right. So we did find that if you mention Wayne Rooney, you're going to have a good chance of getting retweeted to a large audience. So.
And I think going one step further, as Andre just mentioned, it's all about establishing the audience that you want to target and planning before time. So, you know, the World Cup was trial and error for us. We did a lot of things that we'll do again, and we did some things that we probably won't do again, but that's the only way you kind of find out what's going to work and what's not going to work. And so we've already talked about, you know, we pre-plan events that are coming up, and like I said, plan out, you know, when are we going to tweet? What are we going to tweet? What is our purpose of this particular section versus the next? So I think a lot of it is planning as well.
Great question.
You mentioned that marketing utilizes a listening tool like Radiant 6, and sometimes you're able to end up getting some information or collaboration. Can you maybe expand on that a little bit more?
I'll do my best. Okay. So they are listening all the time, and I know that just the overview that I've received from them, because I am not, you know, I don't understand the statistics of everything so well, but the overview that I've understood is there are certain keywords that you might look for, and then you kind of create a list, and just you can see, I forget what it's called, but you can kind of see what people are saying, to be able to do that. And I mean, honestly, we've just had a very informal relationship where if they see something that is very just recruiting specific, like people mentioning college sort of things, I think you guys have seen that, and just sending it over to us. And so we just kind of tweet out through the ExactTarget jobs and just to make sure we are getting on top of that in a timely manner. But it's nothing like super formal, but if there are any red flags, I've just seen emails come through to us just to let us know, like, hey, you know, someone has a question about recruiting when they are going to hear a sponsor, just smaller things like that. And so we will try to get on top of that and adapt to that and respond to that. Yeah, I don't know if that, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just curious what that relationship look like.
Sure.
A company larger size that may sit in the marketing realm.
Absolutely.
But obviously, you that big as well. So just didn't know what that relationship.
Sure, and I think one of the things that has been really great with our kind of social media initiative is that we've been really trying hard to build that relationship a lot more in that process, because previously we weren't doing that so much, especially from a recruiting perspective. Yes, we had our own Twitter handle, but they have been so helpful to get us access to Radiant 6, to be able to listen once I figure out the specifics. It's a very complicated system, but very good. And so we also use Social Studio and Buddy Media. So actually what they've been helpful with for our standpoint is that Nicole and I actually sit down with Candace once a week, and we will schedule out different articles that we want to post throughout the week, and then be able to go in once things are, if there's something coming up, if there's something that we want to respond to, we will do that. But to help schedule those things out, they've been super helpful in helping to get us set up to be able to use our own tools for that as well. And
I think it's really neat with ExactTarget. Like, I can't think of another company that I've heard of where you're okay in recruiting to say, I'm going to go work with marketing to do this. I mean, it's the cross collaboration. I mean, we have these amazing products, but I don't think, you know, it's hard for us to sit down and learn them. But these guys have done a great job doing that, and it's made me more social media conscious about what that we have. You know, I had made, you know, usually I'm very positive. I've had 3 complaints on social media about products in the last couple of months. The 2 that were ExactTarget companies got back to me within like minutes. So I mean, the listening tool that, you know, so hey, this happened, wasn't, you know, pleased with it. They had somebody reach out and had it resolved within 24 hours in both cases, where the other person that wasn't an ExactTarget client, they got back to me, but it was a week later or whatnot. So I thought it was interesting to see the listening tool. And it's great because if all of a sudden, if there's a fire going with one of, you know, something that's happening, you're seeing, oh my God, we're seeing a spike in complaints here. You know, the account manager can jump on that and address it immediately versus, you know, the first time they hear about it is somebody puts a blog out to like, thousands of people.
Yes. Can you share size, volume, what are the largest number of positions that you look for, and what's the hardest thing?
That's a great question because it constantly changes. You know, when I was, you know, in the 2 years I've been here, which feels like dog years in a positive way, I mean, when I got here, it was, we had hired, you know, we landed the Gap as this major client. So it was like services, client services, client services. You know, then it was R&D, we were hiring all these engineers. These guys came into a time where it was like, we're doing nothing but sales. And then it switched back to R&D, and then it became services. So it pivots with the business. That's one of the nice things about our sourcing team is that it's cross-functional. These guys are equally trained in every area. So when the MT says, okay, we're gonna hire 200 services people in Q4, start pipelining right now. These are the top 50 jobs that we have. We do that. And then the next quarter says, okay, we're gonna hire just salespeople, learn solutions consultant, enterprise sales, new business, and existing business, pivot and go that way. So you have to be adaptable. That's one thing we look for as far as working at resumes. And people that we talk to, if they want to be like push a button or be do the same thing every day, they're probably not going to survive here, just because it literally is drinking from a fire hose. We want people that want to be challenged. We want people that say like, I want it to be the busiest day I've ever had, and then the next day is even busier. I always joke around, the only easy day was yesterday. It's from like the Navy SEAL anthem, but it is. It's just every day's a new challenge, and it's people, we've been able to hire across the board people that are ready to adapt to that and roll with whatever comes their way.
Kelly?
You mentioned being proactive and kind of putting a strategy together around events. Obviously, you have connections coming up in about 2 weeks, so could you maybe talk a little bit about what your recruitment strategy is in alignment with your own event?
Yeah, there's actually a lot going on, so I'll start and hand off to these guys. We have done a lot on different levels. We have engaged an app called a talent portal on our career site. So for the last year and a half, if you go to our website and you say, okay, I'm really interested in a sales job, but I don't see a sales job posted. I'd love to be keeping track. You can sign up there. We'll take your information. It's your name and your email. When a sales job comes up in your region you're interested in, it'll come available, or a marketing job, or et cetera. Well, we now have over 1,000 people that have opted in. We sent a campaign out to all of them. Ben was able to write the code and send out a campaign through our Jobvite saying, hey, you showed interest in ExactTarget before. Because of that, we're going to offer this pass to connections. If you're a software developer, you're going to get this. We also were able to talk to our pipeline of any software developer we talked to over the last 4 years that we'd interviewed, but maybe we didn't hire that we were very interested in. We were able to use our platform and send out a campaign to all of them, inviting all of them to apply with a special code for software developers where they're going to get in free, have a special track just for them. And we also engage LinkedIn as well. So we've reached out in the last probably week to roughly 3,000 people, and we're seeing people come in left and right that are registering. And again, Oak Soon's person with the Beam Me Up, Scotty, she re-engaged him on Twitter a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago and just said, hey, by the way, we're giving this code away to developers. We'd love for you to come. He registered within like 5 minutes. So it's just, we're still hitting all channels for that.
I mean, from a personal standpoint, I know with my Twitter, I have it open because I do tweet a lot about ExactTarget and our culture, the InstaJobs that I shared. So personally, our blog is a plethora of information, not only about ExactTarget Marketing Cloud, but about upcoming connections, activities. So I've kind of taken that upon myself, and I know other members of the team have as well, to, okay, we're less than 2 weeks out, let's start getting that conversation going with my separate followers. And same on LinkedIn, just something as simple as going into a group that may be relevant and want to know about connections, starting a discussion there or sharing a status update. I mean, it's really as simple or as complicated and complex as you want to make it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the interactions that we have with people are not going to just be, hey, this job is open, we want you to fill it. It's a lot more of just that conversation. I mean, even with us, I think our initial conversations are always, what is it that you're interested in? What do you want your next step to be? Because we really want to be able to offer that to different people. So one thing that we are doing at Connections, and it is from our recruiting area, but it's also just to share our culture, is a culture booth. And I don't know if that's exactly what we decided to call it just yet, but that's something that Nicole's been working on. But those are different events that we're trying to be proactive in.
All right, so it's after 9 o'clock. But I know you guys are going to stick around. If there's any questions, so please feel free to come up and ask them, or we'll be mingling around.
Tweet at us.
Yeah. But I did want a round of applause for our speakers today. I also want to thank the Children's Museum for having us. We love being here. This is a great facility kind of to show up, plug in, and present, which is awesome. Also 12 stars, so if any of you guys have video needs, whether it's editing, on-site production, whatever that might be, 12 stars always does a fantastic job, not just here for this event, but for clients all over the city and the globe, actually. Also, Circle City Suites, like I said, they provided the breakfast goodies out there, and I recommend if you guys do any catering at your company, take a sheet with you, take it back to the person there in your office. There's a coupon on there for them, and I know they're excited to be a part of this. And also, I wanted to also thank Laura Yurs, who's down here in the front row. She's been taking pictures. Just a real quick story. No, real quick. So Laura and I think, so we met each other maybe day 2 or day 3 at Butler back in the day, so talk about the power of networking. I did happen to be the best man at her wedding, which we have kept in touch. But she can be found, Laura Yurs, Y-U-R-S, on Facebook. She does all kinds of great photography. You might have seen it up at Hubbard and Craven. She's also been at M10 Studios. And I think we were to show you, to talk about the digital age and the social age, because our freshman year at Butler was the first time you could dial up from your dorm room, which was a big deal back in the day. And now here we are today, you know, talking about all this just within the last 20 years and how that's all changed. So definitely want to thank all of you for coming again. Thanks to the speakers, and hope you all have a great day. Thank you.